What's up, YouTube? This is your boy, Silver Wolf with Silver Wolf TV, back with another banger, OG Nitty. Before we get started, y'all, remember hit that like button, subscribe to the channel, comment, and share. I'm trying to build this channel one subscriber at a time. I only can do it with y'all. Without y'all, I cannot do it. Thank y'all for everybody who already subscribed to it, and thank everybody who's gonna go and subscribe to it. God bless you. Now let's get right into it. OG Nitty, what's going on, baby?
Hey man, what's up, man? What's up, YouTube? What's happening? As always, I start my openings by saying, man, I ask y'all to join in my campaign to free my little brothers, Pork and Purple, two real bloods doing real blood things. Without further ado, the question was asked to me recently about the process in me returning as a blood. You know, and it actually is a process.
Well, let me stop you. Never ask this question right here before you get started on that, because there's been a lot of talk too about the politics between bloods in prison and the politics between bloods on the street. You, tell me some of the politics like with the bloods in prison.
See, bloods in prison, the politics is this. The bloods in prison are, how you say, everything is close quarters, right? So you're not going to do anything without somebody knowing about it. And because the love that you have, homies, they have for this life, it's all they have. It's the only good thing they got in their life. And because these are people who families have turned their backs on them, friends have forgotten about them, right? These are people that they are really in the struggle together, as a lot of the young people like to say, in the mud, and they got out of the mud and they in the mud. This is what this is really about in there. Like, I can remember a time that we was on lockdown, and we was on lockdown for a minute too. Somebody got killed, and you know, you wasn't allowed to go to commissary and none of this, and they was feeding us cheese sandwiches and peanut butter sandwiches and stuff like this. That's all we was getting 3 times a day, right? Well, in the morning they would feed us a cereal and a milk, and that's all we was getting. So whatever commissary you had in your cell was a commissary that you have, you know, you had to try to stretch and whatever. And I had a cell buddy, man, cold-blooded gangster, man, dude by the name of Joe Gang, right? We was so tight, you know, as cell buddies. He had one oodles and noodles, right? And we had some of the cream cheese in a joint, and probably had, for whatever reason, we had a half an onion, right? So we sent this motherfucker, man, and he hooked this noodle up. He said, man, motherfuck that. He said, nigga, he said, I'll be damned if I'm gonna be in here eating and you ain't, right? And we split one oodles of noodles. That's the kind of forge that you build with guys in prison, where somebody can care about you as much as they care about themselves, right? And it's a serious bond. It becomes an even deeper friendship, right? That's why you got guys in prison that will really kill you about their homeboy and their friend, right? And think nothing of it, because they've already accepted the fact that they're never going home again. Prison is home. You know, that's one of the things, it's kind of a, how you call it, a lingo in prison, right? The dudes that already gave up, they could be like, boy, I'm getting ready to go to this library, boy, I'm getting ready, excuse me, I'm saying this backwards. Niggas who haven't gave up would say, boy, I'm getting ready to go to this library, boy, I'm trying to get the fuck out of here, man. I gotta find me a motherfucking hole somewhere. And the guys who had already accepted the fact that they was gonna die in there, they be like, yeah, well, boy, I'm trying to get down to this motherfucking yard if I can go lift me some motherfucking weights. You know what I mean? because this is home. And you got dudes that's really like that in that motherfucker. And so when it comes down to the politics of bloods and things of that nature in there, like, you got guys, man, that really fuck with each other, right? And it's nothing phony, right? You got guys, man, that it's not. It takes this, like, one of the things that the Department of Correction did in the Maryland correctional system is they stopped letters from being able to flow from prison to prison. Well, they stopped this because, in one major way, because a lot of dudes in other prisons was sending hits through there, right? Because you might have a dude that was a rat, right? He told on a bunch of dudes, but dudes might not know that in the next prison. And so they would send it down to the next prison and send the paperwork with it. And say, man, this nigga a rat. And niggas would tear his ass up. Sadly to say, a lot of good dudes have succumbed to their habits in there now. And as long as you have a bitch nigga, a rat, whatever, and it's not in black and white at the moment, then it's like, as long as he's feeding his habit, he'll keep the wolves off of him, right? And it's sad, right? Because here it is, this motherfucker was a pretender, as some people would call a charlatan, you know, a professional confidence man, right? He was all these things besides who he betrayed himself to be. And that's where the lines, I like to say, get blurred with a lot of this shit, right? And like, I tell dudes this, and when they come down to the Bloods, I used to teach all mine this. I say, look, if you have a friend that's in something else or nothing else, I said, if he's in nothing else and that's your friend, then you convince him to be a part of this. And the reason why I said that was simply because of this. It's when people reach that crossroad, right? That's a tough decision. My friend from maybe the outside just violated my brothers. And do I let them deal with him? Do I deal with him myself? Or do I stick by my friend? That's a tough decision.
What choice do you have? He got a decision, or do you have a choice?
In mine, you don't have a choice, right? And when I say mine, I mean the whole, right? I don't mean that it belongs to me, right? But amongst ours, it's mandatory.
That's right. Let me cut you off. Mm-hmm. You got a lot of bloods on the street that, you know what I mean, that get away with a lot of stuff. You feel me? Now, forced prisons, like, say somebody violated and stole something from another member or something. What's his violation in prison compared to on the street?
Well, if you stole something from somebody in there, now, first and foremost, you definitely getting beat, right? There's no ifs, ands, buts about that. And the reason why you're getting beat is because of this. You put the whole at jeopardy. And a lot of people don't understand that, right? When you have a body, like, if one of your limbs stopped working, then you wouldn't be able to function properly as you would with your limbs attached. So when it comes down to things like this, you had to really you got to think this guy could derail everything that's been going on for the last 20 years. Is he worth that? Let me be the first to vote. Fuck no. No one man is bigger than this. And that included myself, my brothers, anybody. No one man is bigger than this. The reason why that is because once you start having one man thinking that he is bigger than the whole, then this is somebody who will eventually go rogue and put everybody in jeopardy. Like it's another blood that was somebody, but he was younger than me. But man, I actually learned from this guy. His name was GD, right? And I really like seeing the passion in saying somebody has put you at the face of something, and you see that one of yours get hurt. Man, one of his had got back now. No doubt, niggas tore their ass on the frame about it, right? But I sat and watched him take his homie's face and turn it to the side, right, from side to side, and see the bruise on his face. But what fucked me up, that he stared at him for a second, and I actually seen tears well up in his eyes. That's real belief. That's the difference between in the streets and in prison. Because everybody feels the real ones, right? Let me be clear on that. Everybody feels that you are responsible for the next man. See, many people have turned blood into an ugly word, right? And I can tell each one of you who has that as a retired blood, I can tell you that people who are trying to pull the wool over your eyes will always try to distract you from the truth and what's going on. You know, bloods, because in most cases in Maryland, you have a lot of younger ones, right? So we're short on not intelligence, but intellectuals. That's the difference. And what needs to happen is with the bloods, like I said, in prison. See, in prison, I'm gonna get back to this 1 second. In prison, let me give you an example. Like, you have stores. You have store guys, right? As bloods, each tier, we want to have a store on. Because there's other gangs on there. It's on that tier. Each tier, we want to have a store on, right? And whatever the gangs, the ops are, we're trying to drive them out of business. Not because of greed, right? Because of power. That's the difference from in there and out in the streets. Like, in there, when you get your rank with us, right? And I'm speaking only for Dove, right? Only for rolling 20s. In there, when you get your rank, it's actually a vote system-wide. Because it's that important. Because the decisions that this person makes, who now has rank, could change things, the dynamic of things, as they know it. And wars have been started like that between gangs, because somebody became corrupt with their power. And the way it go in there, which is different from the streets, if one gang member, another gang member beefing, let's say, no, let me give you a better scenario. Let's say two gang members bank another gang member, right, on opposite gangs. Unless they have clear and convincing proof in there that this motherfucker was all the way out of fucking pocket. It was no fucking excuse for what he did. He was stealing. It's something like that, right? It got to be something, and it's a list of things, but I won't go into it. But unless they have that, that instantly starts a war. That's the difference between in prison and the streets. And it's not a war on that tier. It's a war on that jail, the next 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 jail. That's how I go in prison. And it goes like this because the difference between the streets and prison, you don't have a choice. Meaning this, you can't go hide somewhere, right, until the smoke is clear. Can't do that. Or you can't be friends with this dude, this your homeboy, boy, y'all be getting high together, y'all smoke together, whatever, right? You can't do that in there because, one, you never know if he's setting you up. That's one, because they might already know that they was cool. So the high ups will sit down there and say, ho, they cool, ain't they? Okay, he can get up on his ass. Tell him hit him. That's how it goes in there. And when he when he gets a little like unsure, the crossroads I was speaking about, they help you with that in there. It ain't either you or him. It's either him or you and him. It's not. It's not. You don't have a whole bunch of time to let grass grow up underneath your feet about that, right? That's one thing. Another thing is you can't sit back against the wall and say I ain't playing because a motherfucker gonna hit you anyway because he knows that that's what you is. And the first thing he gonna think, boy, he trying to fox me. So he's gonna hit your ass anyway. That's the difference between in the streets and in prison.
That's this question I had, OG. What about bumming home compared to bumming home on the streets and bumming home in the prison?
Well, in most sets, there's real right. They beat homies in and shit like that. In prison, it's a little harder, right? Because it's a little harder because of this. You can't bring this motherfucker home until y'all can get him on a tier. And the cells ain't but so big, so ain't never about 3 y'all can fit in the motherfucker at best. And imagine 3 motherfuckers in there, this motherfucker in the cell getting banked by 2 motherfuckers, but he's fighting back. That's the only way to survive. And it's a motherfucker on the outside hold the clock, or some motherfuckers they set the alarm on their clock, and they set the alarm on their clock, and they go and go and go and go and go until maybe one of them actually notice, okay, the alarm going off. Then when I can't go into detail into how motherfuckers are actually brought home in there, but it's the difference between in there and there. It's like you either a man or a bitch when it come down to this. And it's similar to that. And you can only pretend for so long in there. That's the difference between banging in prison and banging in the street. See, because a nigga say, well, man, motherfucker ain't even shooting at me, I ain't gonna shoot at him. Can't do that in prison. You better hit that nigga, because he's gonna hit you. That's the difference. That's how motherfuckers home. You sit down there and it's oaths. I won't go into the oath, right? But it's oaths that you had to take because you had to pledge your life to this, right? And you had to be dead serious about that in there because we're gonna be dead serious about you. And I'm speaking about the real right sense because I know it's gonna be a bunch of comments and dudes talking about, well, I know this, I know what that happened. What did that happen? I don't run the Bloods, and nor do I profess to. I was a big homie in my set, and one of the things that we do in there, one of the things, like I said, you had to be dead serious, like this oath, and then this even has to go uptown, right? I had such fond memories when I first came home. When I first became 20s. I had such fond memories, man, because it reminded me of how OG Mac from up New York. Now I just heard some crazy stuff about him. I don't know. I didn't get the full story yet. We might talk about that in another episode. However, I remember reading how he first started. And man, it was such an honor, right? And I'm sitting there, man, and me and this dude, man, and I know this dude that I'm fighting, man, this dude ain't no punk, he ain't no bitch, this nigga go. So we sitting in this motherfucker, we rumbling, boom, because, like I told you, sometimes we had the motherfucking, dude set their alarm on the clock. And
That's you and the dude in the cell fighting, you and him.
Right. It's me and him. And they're fighting. Right? Boom, 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 boom. Right? And so we both step back, kind of say at the same time. It's, man, say oath, man. And see, one of the things in there, you can't stutter when you saying your oath. If you do have a fucking speech impediment, man, it's best to let that be known, right? Because that whole process starts over in there when you fuck up. So unless you plan on being in there and fighting this motherfucker all day, it's best to get that shit done in one take, right? So even when you fall, start over. And you got to get back up, right? You got to get back up and then start over. And motherfuckers say, oh, all right, set this motherfucker clock, right? And niggas be in that motherfucking they rumbling, but it's assurance, right? For each other saying, yo, this motherfucker I know ain't scared of me. And I done showed I ain't scared of him. So here come two dudes who probably for the first time in their life shared a mutual respect. See, you got a lot of niggas out there. That's why I said the difference between prison and banging in prison, banging in the streets. You got a lot of niggas out there, you know, they really don't understand the real purification of that shit. Like when you have a deep belief in something, and then you had this like I said, this for the first time in their life, this mutual respect. You have so many dudes out here, they claim that they respect their man. Some, many others, no, they don't. And they don't respect their man for real, but their man might be useful to them at the moment. That's a dangerous game as well, right? But I get to what I was ready to say in a second. But there's a difference in there. You know, for the first time, these dudes are sharing equal respect. And then that thing, it becomes infectious. Because other dudes want to share that mutual respect, right? And this is for any females that are watching this. Always know, a man would rather for you to respect him than love him if he had to choose between the two. These are facts. Because he is assured that as long as you respect him, then you also love him. Because you have so much respect for him that as a woman, not as a woman that's scared of him, anything like that, but as his queen, he knows that you have enough respect for him to tame your tongue at times that it should be. And one says, I don't want to seem like a chauvinist, like I would imply that, you know, women had their place. No, I don't. But it's about respect for a man. Now, back to what I was saying, this thing becomes infectious and other dudes want to share that because, believe it or not, it's a whole different feeling to look at this nigga and see everything in him that you see in yourself. What many dudes say, man, he's my reflection. Like, and mine was taught to, when they recruited, to sit down there. When I say mine, I'm just speaking about, the Doves, or the Rolling 20s. They was taught in there to, when you recruit, make that nigga be your reflection. Because I'm fine with you. Because anything else can be and will be a cancer. And that has to be understood. And that's one of the things, like I said, is a difference between banging in prison and banging in the streets. Because in the streets, you're not held accountable to the level that you would be in there and as consistently as you would be in there. You're not held accountable. And then some of the punishments in the streets, they go too far. Right? Now, if this dude didn't do something worth killing him about, then why kill him? That's a unnecessary murder for somebody. And in most cases, you ain't get paid for it, so you didn't even see a gain in the shit. So it's like it was, your game wasn't behind that, your set wasn't behind that. So it's but that's the difference. Like I say, in prison, and you're in prison, you're held accountable for shit, right? You steal from somebody, especially when you stole from somebody outside the gang, but it would be the same thing in the fucking gang inside your own set, right? But in prison, like this dude you can have a blood robber, a BGF member, right? This, that. And there, they, if I might get sanctioned out here and this, that, and it don't really be no thing. He said, man, he could say, man, I know who the nigga was. He was such and such, man, he Jay. But it only, right, it only, like, it doesn't get blown out of proportion. And there, man, that has and will continue to start wars. I done seen this happen before. Like, you done had hoods go to war, with other organizations and stuff like this, and then it turns into a nation against nation thing in many cases. And wars are much different in prison than they are on the streets. Niggas, you got some joints, they last, a couple of weeks, a few months, and that's long for in the streets, right? But in there, when a war breaks out against nations, it lasts for years. So that's why you are held so accountable in there, because it disrupts, I won't say it stops, but it disrupts a great deal of the prison politics that go on every day, right? It disrupts a great deal of that. And so you don't have a bunch of dudes jumping up and down and say, hey, man, I'm looking for a war. Man, I can't wait till we have another war. Because a nigga know that, okay, you're going on lockdown again. You're probably going to be on lockdown for about a fucking year. 6 months if you're lucky, right? You ain't ready to go to commissary. You ain't ready to use the phone and, and all this old stuff. You're going to take some hits about that. You definitely ain't got nothing coming with you don't even think about a yard or a gym or a library and shit like that. Ain't none of that shit in your future, for the next 6 months to a year. So that's why dudes are held so accountable. You got dudes that still have family out there on the streets, and a dude might have a wife, right? I met my wife in prison. Unfortunately, we didn't make it when I should have been out here, but it is what it is. However, um, you got dudes that they are really in love with their wives. You got dudes are in love for the first time really in their life, because even the emotions in there are different, and in most cases deeper, right? They run deeper. So if you sit down there and take away that privilege for this guy to be able to call his wife every day and shit like that and have some sort of fucking hope, man, you better have a damn good fucking reason for doing what the fuck you did, right? Because you will get held fucking accountable, because he's going to demand that, and this ain't got nothing to do with rank. He's going to demand that, and he has every right to. He has every fucking right to, because you took something away from him, and you're opposed to saying that you call him your brother. You took something away from him because you made a foolish decision. Can't get away with that. There's no way. And for people to say, oh my God, he's provoking violence. I know the comments coming. It's cool, right? However, it made a lot of people, even myself, a better man. Believe it or not. Because now I got what you call self-check. And I go into situations now, eyes open. I pray that I'm not put in a situation anymore that, I would have to take somebody's life. But, I'm just, all I can say is that hey, I'm not going to intentionally do it.
You still was a retired blood, and then how was that process coming out of prison, retired as a blood?
Well, it was a process. I started taking a less active role, right? People was used to seeing me and this and that, and I started taking less active role because it was honestly, it wasn't that much by choice. It was also by force, because they kept me behind the door all the way until I came home for 7 years straight. For 7 years straight, they kept me on lockdown. And they kept me on there for 6 months, a year, or shit like that. For probably the last damn near 20 years they've been doing this to me. Right? So it was, and not because I was constantly out there stabbing people and hitting people upside the head. It's something that I learned. One of the most dangerous, humans that walks this earth is a black man, right? And man, if you mix that in that gumbo with an intelligent black man, then if you throw a little more in there and say, boy, he's still street savvy, I come from, that's a dangerous nigga. Because he's what I used to call two homeboys of mine. They're pretty killers. You see these guys, the last thing would come on your mind that he out there taking hits, busting heads, you woke up. But man, these dudes were so fucking dangerous. And they were straight pretty boys. One of them, he introduced me to Versace before I fell. And it was dudes like that, man. They was pretty killers. But it looked like my time is starting to wind down to an end. So I catch y'all again on the other side. And we got something nice coming up for y'all. For all the fellas, I think y'all gonna like this. Alright, y'all stay tuned. Peace.
Silver Wolf TV. And then I see you brought one of your G's with you. Mars, where you want to introduce yourself?
Eastside Rolling 20s, Mossberg.
That's Big Mossberg, One Nitty, Young G's, Silver Wolf TV, y'all. Thanks for watching. Remember, hit that subscribe button, comment, like, and share the channel. Peace out, y'all. God bless.